So I just wanted to say, okay, so if you're in a standard tuning, right, you should, after a while, start to be able to recognize in a general way what certain like really common chords sound like, right? Like a G. Like it'll just start to sound, some of these sounds should start to sound familiar. A D, right? And then especially certain sort of tricks that people do, right? So like people play these kind of things when they play a D, and you'll start to sort of recognize that when you hear it, right? Or I don't know, even like a trick like this, like when you hear like C to F like this, you know, you'll hear this in songs, right? And that'll start to be something you recognize, like, oh, I've played that kind of thing before. And just generally just the sound of a standard tuning guitar, right? Now obviously there's a lot of other stuff you can play in standard tuning that doesn't sound like open chords, and there's bar chords, etc., right? So that's like just one general thing. Then there's sort of like capo is one other level, right? So you might hear a guitar part that sort of sounds like I might hear what sounds to me like the D sound, but it's up here. You know? So that's the sound of a standard tuning guitar that's being capoed, right? So it just sounds like a really high, right? So that might throw you off. You might think, oh, is that an alternate tuning? But it's just a capo. But anyway, but then I have this guitar in an alternate tuning. So this is like in an open tuning, and what might tip you off that something's in an open tuning. So for instance, this is an open D right now. In general, there's a few tunings where you tune the E down to D, and that's something you might start to be able to tell. Like if you hear a note that sounds lower than the low E, well, the low E sounds like this, right? But you know, that might be a tip off. Open tunings, you might hear a lot of open strings, and you might hear chords that just don't sound like any of those standard tuning chords, right? Again, don't put pressure on yourself, though, to be like, oh, I should be able to tell. It's like, it takes a lot of practice. But just if you're looking for a hint, that's sort of like a hint you might find. You know, I'm hearing some... That sounds very open tuning, right? Because there's sort of these ringy chords, and then maybe like I can hear somebody doing something like that. Anyway, I don't know if any of this is helpful, but it was just some thoughts I had, and it's an interesting topic.